with our next session and interview series in Pulling Back the Curtain in Real Estate. So today I just wanted to go ahead and introduce to you our esteemed guests. So today, of course, we have our own Lauren Skudowitz.
Hello.
Yay.
And we have our friend slash inspector slash inspection company owner, Roland LeClaire.
Good morning.
So if a person is, right about to start this whole process of getting their house on the market, one of the biggest things that we have to let people know is it's not only about selling your house. We're not only selling your house. We are guiding this ship throughout the entire process. And one of the most key components to that is an inspection. So inspections can completely derail deals. They can reveal many things that a lot of times homeowners don't even realize are going on with their home. So we brought Roland on today to give a little insight. And Roland, if you'll give us a little background about you, and then we'll go into our first question.
All right. Well, we spent a lot of years building houses, designing houses as both a carpenter and a general contractor. And having run my own business, there was nobody to give me promotions, raises, or evaluation. So I just kind of took the natural course and started out as a carpenter, moved into general contracting, project management. And when that series ended for me, I was kind of looking at different avenues, and it seemed like home inspections to provide advice regarding homes from the knowledge that I've acquired over a decade's worth of experience, just seemed like the natural course. So I got involved with home inspections and have been doing home inspections in the Atlanta area for 16 years. I've also had the opportunity to evaluate and consult on projects in Florida, Colorado, San Diego, Minnesota, Montana, and the Philippines. So, yeah, it's been an interesting career thus far. And recently I've ventured away from the company that I've been with for 16 years, and I've started my own firm called Building Stone Inspection Group.
Amazing. Well, we're excited because we've always had such incredible interactions with you. Roland can tell you every last detail of a home and make you feel very empowered with the knowledge that he provides. So with all that, let's get into it. Number one, what are the top 3 issues that you have seen that can completely derail a deal because of the inspection?
Well, I think one of the number one things that can derail an inspection starts almost from the point either somebody purchased a home or has started living in it, and that's deferred maintenance, because that can lead to a variety of issues. Deferred maintenance of your gutters. Folks may just be a singular thought pattern and say, "Oh, I need to clean my gutters." But if they haven't been cleaned in a long time, it can affect the foundation, the trim, and even your wall structure. If that water happens to seep, water is going to take the path of least resistance, and eventually it's going to make it to its destination. And in doing so, it will make its path larger on its way to its final destination, making it easier for additional water to follow that same path. So deferred maintenance of the home, including gutters, roof gutters, grading, and yard drainage, play a huge factor in the condition of a home. And of course, when I think of stuff like that, I've got a 3rd grade teacher Mrs. Doss, I remember, and she would always say, "Roland, keep up the grades. It's a lot easier to keep up an A than it is to recover from a D or an F and work your way back up to an A." And so all of that just kind of sits in my head, little snippets of teachings from people of my past. So, but yeah, deferred maintenance I can see as being a really large factor for derailing an inspection, because that alone can contribute to a multitude of issues. I also think number 2 item would be the manner in which an inspector presents the information that's collected during an inspection.
Right.
You know, I think staying to the facts and knowing that everything you come across can be repaired, and it's all relative to the person receiving the information of the inspection and how it affects them. But if an inspector is presenting that information with an alarming tone or inflection in their voice, you know, that alone sends an alert to the person listening to the information. And so that's over the course of 16 years. And I've had an excellent mentor in my inspection process, but that's one thing we've prided ourselves on, and that I'll continue to pride myself on as I move forward with my own business, is to deliver the information in a capacity that's not alarming.
That is so true. Lauren, I know that you had a great question for Roland, so I'll let you take the lead on this next one.
So a lot of times after we list a property and get under contract, sellers ask Meg or I for advice on what they can do to prepare for a smooth inspection. Are there some quick and easy things that they could do a day or two ahead of time that would help them put their best foot forward?
Well, a day or two ahead of time of listing, I would say you're probably looking at just cleaning the house. But if you've got a little more time in advance, my biggest thing would be to get a pre-listing inspection in order to head some of those things off of the pass. You know, we provide home maintenance inspections too. So our inspection process is not just for people who want to sell their homes, but people who want to maintain their homes too. So you could be in your home for 10, 15 years and maybe haven't done a lot other than what you can see and are familiar with. But, you know, a home inspector has got a trained eye and goes into spots that you might not feel comfortable with, and just to identify issues. So I think a pre-listing inspection is probably the number one thing that can help prepare an inspection or prepare a home for listing.
Sure. So as part of that pre-listing inspection, clients could anticipate HVAC servicing. What exactly is kind of like the top things they could expect?
Well, one of the items that I find that most homeowners are unaware of is that the manufacturer of shingles, most manufacturers of shingles recommend service and maintenance of your roof every 6 to 10 years. And the reason most homeowners aren't aware of this is because during a replacement of their roof, they never get the opportunity to read the packaging on the shingles, because it goes from the roof into the dump truck or the dumpster, and there's nothing left behind when a good roofing contractor leaves.
Right.
So they're unaware of that. So a roof may go 15, 20 years never having maintenance. And when we get to the inspection, we see a lot of issues, whether it's nails backing out of their installed location or plumbing waste vent penetrations at the roof where the rubber boot has started to deteriorate due to its exposure to UV light and weather, and just issues like that. I mean, the shingles bending and cracking. Most of the time when you take an asphalt or a composite shingle and you bend it to cover a hip or you bend it to cover a ridge, you've now placed that shingle under a little bit of stress. And with exposure to the weather and UV light, it breaks down even further. So it's just really good to provide that maintenance to your roof in order to ensure that you get the lifespan the shingle manufacturers intended for that particular shingle.
Got it. Okay.
Another one would be mold. We're going to go on to number 3. That mold would be a big one.
Right.
And of course, a lot of mold is the byproduct of what we spoke about earlier, and that would be deferred maintenance. Crawl space, basements, things of that nature. But yeah, mold seems to be a big deterrent. And there's not much regulations in the state of Georgia with regard to mold, and the companies that are popping up, I think they're doing their best to properly price things. But I think you'll find from one company to the next that some of the remediation costs are significantly different from one company to the next. So there's not really a means for most companies starting to base their charges on. So it can be a large expense.
Sure. And of these these items that pop up, it's been my experience that the most costly are generally the roof, right? If there needs to be a roof replacement, also mold remediation that you just touched on. And then if there is a need to replace HVAC systems.
Exactly.
So those are usually my top three. Can you kind of give us a rough estimate as to what people could expect? Let's just give it a 2,500 square foot home, right? What would somebody really look at in regard to a roof replacement, mold remediation, if there's a crawl, and then 2 HVAC replacements?
So if you've got a 2,500 square foot house, and I'll use a 1959 brick ranch with a hip roof instead of the gables. A hip roof, you're going to have some, and you may have a couple valleys where the carport connects, and then you've got some hips, and so it's a bit more complicated of a setting than a gable roof might be. An average cost for 2,500 square foot 1959 brick ranch would run about $6,500, and that typically includes a 30-year architectural shingle.
Sure. All right.
Now, the price typically goes up for roofers the steeper the roof pitch is. You've got a 512, 612 pitch. It's easy to walk around your roof, blow out your gutters, so that you get a little less, you get a break on that type of roof. Now, if your pitch increases, so does the price of the inspection. If your contractors can't get to the roof, they've got to use 30-foot ladders to get up there. Usually anything over a 12-foot ladder, you're going to pay a premium for.
Okay. Two kind of run-of-the-mill, not your super expensive, not your least expensive HVAC replacements.
So you've roughly got 3 components to a full HVAC system. You've got your furnace and heat pump, which are typically located at the interior. And then for your cooling, you've got an evaporator coil and a condensing unit. So for cooling system, there's an average cost, speculative cost of about $1,200 per ton. And for those that aren't familiar, about 12,000 BTUs is a ton. And so you've got 18,000 BTUs would be a ton and a half. So the average cost of a cooling system replacement is about $1,200 per ton. So for instance, if you have a 36,000 BTU condensing unit, well, then you're looking at about $3,600 roughly to replace the cooling system. But that price typically includes the condensing unit outside, as well as the evaporator coil that's connected to the furnace or heat pump. Great. And then, if you've got a 36,000 BTU cooling system, you're probably looking at a 60 to 80,000 BTU furnace. And with that, you're probably looking to pay about $3,000 to $3,500 to replace the furnace.
All right. So you're thinking about $6,600 per unit. Let's say there's 2.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at a little over $13,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in some cities or states, there's rebates for that because the equipment that's being manufactured now is considerably more efficient for a home. And as a result of that efficiency, the local municipalities or even the federal government are offering some rebates for those things.
Okay. And then our favorite, mold, which, disclaimer, so many of the homes that we go into in Atlanta have mold.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's one of those trigger words. But generally speaking, it's not anything that is going to really affect your home as long as it is taken care of, it is remediated, and is handled by a professional.
Correct.
So, Roland, I'll let you take that one.
Well, so with regards to mold, there's a variety of prices. And as I mentioned earlier, you could get 10 different mold contractors in the room for remediation. You're likely to get 10 very different prices.
Right.
But one thing that is consistent is most of those legitimate mold remediation contractors also have pretty extensive warranties that cover their workmanship and your safety with regard to mold. So, if you've got a crawl space can run a little bit more expensive, I think, to some degree. because you've got contractors crawling around on their bellies. The workspace is real limited with, sometimes being able to move around and manipulate plastic and cleaning supplies and things of that nature. But, I've seen mold cleaning and remediation run as low as about $1,200, and I've seen it as expensive as $12,000. And it just really depends on the process that's needed in order to remediate what's present in each home. So if you've got a little bit of surface mold, typically around a water heater, an HVAC system, or even the ductwork as it comes up from underneath and distributes air to the interior of the house, sometimes those ducts aren't insulated, and you get condensation that forms in that area, and so you're really isolated to where your mold's developed. So something like that might be a little less expensive as compared to a home where you've got a little bit of water entry, and that the airspace and the crawl space has had elevated humidity levels that have created an environment conducive to fungal development.
Yeah.
Now basements can be a little tricky too. A lot of times with homes that haven't had people in them for a while, there's not a lot of air circulating. The air is kind of stagnant. The thermostats have been set at the lowest possible setting only to maintain the air. So often the air doesn't come on and circulate. And so surface fungus will start to develop. And as it grows, if it's not addressed, it can become a much larger issue. But some things like that can, your spot cleaning and treating the areas, maybe repainting, and while you're cleaning, it's always recommended to use a HEPA vacuum that will pull those mold spores in as you're causing them to become airborne. And then they played out inside there and not redistributed throughout the house. So those are some of the tools that a mold remediation contractor would use in order to prevent continued development of those conditions.
Okay. That was great.
I have a follow-up
Sure.
question. I think some people believe that you're only going to find mold in older homes. Do you see it as well in new construction?
I do. So for those not familiar with new construction, a lot of that material sits out in the front yard until the contractors are ready to use it. So it gets installed sometimes with mold on it. Now, the good news is that house is open with air passing through it. And so often that mold eradicates itself, but not always. The other thing too, if the environment is conducive to growing mold, I mean, it could take less than 24 hours for you to start physically seeing areas where mold is developing. So it doesn't take a lot of time.
Yeah.
So if a seller moves out of a home that they have listed, it would be strongly advised not to turn their AC up to 85 degrees.
Correct.
Don't create a jungle in your home.
76 is kind of a sweet spot. You probably get away with 78, especially on those hot days here in Atlanta. But yeah, our rainy season is tough because we've got temperatures that might be less than 76 degrees, and then it could be considerably warmer too. And, most of those mold spores will start at the exterior. So a lot of our testing identifies a strain of mold known as Aspergillus penicillium, which is a vegetation mold. And we see a lot of that at the exterior because we're a highly vegetative area of the country with a lot of rainfall. So that's why when we'll do airborne mold testing, we'll start at the exterior to gather a baseline because we definitely want our interior spore count to be less than what the outside is.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so Lauren, you get the last and the most fun question.
Okay, so we want to hear one or two of your craziest inspection stories.
Okay, well, early in my career, I was in a crawl space for a friend who was buying a home in Grove Park, and the house had been abandoned for a while. And this was back when my dog was younger, and I would take him on inspections with me. And I had gone into the crawl space, and I hear this kind of chattering sound, and I shine my flashlight around, and charging me are two raccoons. And so I jump out of there, and I shut the crawl space door behind me. And I mean, and maybe I shouldn't say this because PETA's not going to be very happy, but I opened the door back up and I went in behind my dog, and we managed to chase both the raccoons out, both of us, which probably wasn't, maybe not the highlight of intelligence in my career, but we managed to get the raccoons out so we could finish the job. And then there's the story I was telling you earlier where we had started a house in Marietta, a large home. And we always start at the left side of the house and we work our way counterclockwise. It's just kind of a habit we've gotten into. But we started at the rear left corner or left side corner. And we look up as part of our inspection and we see this movement on the wall. As it turns out, it is it's a snake, literally slithering on the brick wall about 16, 18 feet above us, headed right for a little hole in the soffit. And my guess is he probably saw a rodent enter that area. And usually that's what attracts those snakes to a spot like that in your attic. And so obviously that went on our inspection report, the hole and the snake. But yeah, it's always, you see something like that and then you step into the attic and you've got all this insulation and plenty of locations for both rodents and snakes to hide. So you're on alert. You're on high alert as you're passing through the attic space.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Do not envy that inspection at all. It's like your park ranger, part inspector at this point.
Well, sometimes you feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been incredibly informative, very, very valuable, I think, to a lot of people that maybe aren't going to sell their home, but just want to know how to maintain their home properly.
Yeah.
And just great baseline knowledge on when you are buying a home as well. Like, you need to stay on top of it because like you said, it can go all the way down to a D really quickly, and to get back up to an A is going to be a tough one. So we really appreciate your time today, Roland. And
absolutely. I appreciate you guys inviting me to this morning's coffee talk.
Yeah, there we go. And so Building Stone is Roland LeClaire, and we are so excited about his new business, and we hope that you all tune in for our next series. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Meg. Lauren, good to meet you.